was that?
Playhouse Disney!
Totally smitten.
I'm in love.
Do you like the way she always fills your tum?
You're watching the Boring Broadcasting Corporation. In a change to tonight's scheduled program, Bangkok Chicks with Supersized Dicks, we instead have a feature-length video of two bores in Middle England going about their tedious day job. Personally, I'd rather sandpaper my buttocks than sit through this shite. I mean, it's not as bad as Ant and Dec on Channel 3, or Naked Attraction for that matter, although I always like the wobbly tits of any fat chicks in that, I don't mind saying.
I'll tell you what, for October, it's glorious out here.
It certainly is.
Well, I think we're about to lose the sun.
Yes.
So that's bad timing.
It is.
Let's go into this flat.
Still nice.
And do something that's not so nice.
Yeah. Some work.
Compact and bijou.
Yes.
One might say. What we have here is a building built 30 years ago, mid-90s.
Maybe.
That was 30. Fucking hell, I'm getting old. First floor flat. There's the window to the world outside, which was gloriously sunny just a moment ago, but now that we're in here, things are a bit more grim. Speaking of grim, my goodness, this dates back to the 90s. For those too young to remember the 1990s, this is what it looked like. Yeah.
Like 70s model.
Yeah. So you get like the twee tiles with the pastel colours, with sort of the greens and pinks, pictures of baskets of fruit, and these, the finish on the cupboard doors, and it was just, it has kind of got its time, but it was between times, one might say, of the 90s. That's how I sort of see it. You can look at stuff and think, oh, that's very 80s, and that's very 2000s, and the 90s is somewhere in between and kind of got the worst elements of both. But what do I know? I'm not an interior designer. You'll be pleased to hear this kitchen is to come out, this falsy wall, which is rather curious in of its own right. I don't know why that's there. I don't think it's structural. I don't think it carries any electrical or plumbing services. It's just there as part of the demarcation between the living space and the dining space. This is the kind of place, Nigel, which when my wife kicks me out,
You'll be living in.
got to happen sooner or later, that I will end up in, just sort of sitting around in my underpants, scratching my balls, drinking beer and waiting to die. Until then, we've got to prepare it for somebody else to do the same. Now, we came and did the ICR here back in May, as it turned out, and failed the place. Not on loads, but there are problems. Most of the C3s are down to how dated it is, but there are, I think, some issues. You got, for example, a centrifugal fan here missing its cover, so we're going to put a new centrifugal fan in. Nigel is putting up a bar spotlight. We've actually taken down the fluorescent light, took that down yesterday. That's here with its oh so yellowed diffuser. Oh, sticky too. What they've asked for here is a new light to go up, so we'll be putting in a new LED button.
Lovely these are.
Yes, we'll talk more about that in a moment actually. But they also want a secondary light to come off there, and the problem we've got here is that there's no loop in out, it's just a switch live. So what we've said is we're going to have to install a remote solution. Now we've just put out a video, presumably by the time this one gets filmed or edited, where we used a remote solution in a garden.
Yes.
Did we not? That was actually this morning. There you go. And now it's this afternoon, and we're talking about remote solutions again. We mentioned in that video, assuming it got edited, that we use the Ener-J range, that's the FSLing, and that's what we're putting in here, because what we can do with that is change this switch for a grid solution with a couple of rockers for the existing ceiling lights in the lounge, and a couple of remote switches to control
That and the bar.
the kitchen light and the bar spotlight. So this light here, this will get switched out to be in a permy, leaving only these two as rocker switches.
Yeah.
That'll be a permy feed.
Over
Yeah, we'll put 2 receivers on the end of that. One for the light that will be hanging off in the kitchen, and one that will rod a cable over to for the bar spotlight. That has been purchased from Next at £110 by the looks of it. Marvellous, marvellous, darling. Let's have another look at just a quick introduction of what we're doing here. Storage heater. Oh, that's not a pretty lump on the wall, is it?
That's getting changed out.
That is getting changed. I don't know what for. Storage heaters are such a massive pain in the fanny because of Lot 20. Lot 20 is some stupid EU directive that came along to really fuck up storage heaters.
Yes.
Other heaters as well, but mainly storage heaters. The thing is with storage heaters is their simplicity. 2 knobs, output and input. You control the power going in, you control the heat coming out. That heat coming out is just controlled by a mechanical flap. It's that easy. And you tend to find them in places where there's no gas, like here. A lot of places where you've got little old ladies sort of living there.
A lot of flats, haven't they?
Yeah, flats, granny flats, whatever. So Lot 20 comes out, and now you've got computerized control via some fucking horrendous interface that's very difficult to navigate, I find. So how are you supposed to get some little old fucking deer to control how their
Right,
heater
they
works?
barely understood then, they'd be set and left.
Designed by some engineering asshole who doesn't know how to fucking design a man-machine interface, and yet applied to things that traditionally never had such controls, and it's quite horrendous. I don't really want anything to do with them, to be honest, so I might just tell the client to source their own storage heater, we'll install it, and then it's up to them to figure out how it works. I don't know. I don't know who put these shelves up here, but these are so on the piss. All right. Did you put those up now? So, storage heater, that's one bugbear. Kitchen lights, we've got to change out. Bar spotlight we've got to put up. That fan over there, we've got to change.
Not the hooks.
We've got to move that telephone point so that it's near a socket for the broadband router. Yeah, interesting hooks. Someone's put in a shower, electric shower in trunking. That light has got to be changed. That fan is fucked. Humidistat fan to go in. That's got to be changed.
Yeah.
We've got to do something with the immersion heater. There's no lower heater. There's another video I did about immersion heaters, which hopefully will be edited out and out by the time this one goes out. So we've got to put some kind of control in for controlling the immersion heaters. And then there's this. Oh, fucking Square D, eh? Square D Quickline. That certainly dates the fucking installation to the mid-90s, doesn't it? One dead board that the immersion heater was on. Someone has obviously moved it to the RCD side of the board at some stage. 3 storage heaters off peak. Everything else is on the peak side. Type AC, RCD. To be fair, it's only these storage heaters and the lights that are not RCD protected, but it's an obsolete board, and I think just best to change out, isn't it? Get a new RCBO surge protected board in there. I'm going to have to have a word with SBS about what they offer in terms of split boards, where we can put the peak and off peak in together, but I'm sure they'll see me right. So we've got a fair bit to do here, and it's not all happening this afternoon, that's for damn sure.
That's the end of where that light is. We've got to get it rodded within this area.
Okay, well that should be doable. If you whack in an hole, we'll whack through the rods.
Right.
I've talked for far too long already. I'll tell you what, while I've been arsing around with this camera, old Martian here, he's a one-man rodding machine. You are a machine, motherfucker! So that's going to be the feed to the new bar spots. As I said, we've got a switchable feed here, so we're going to have to install, where are these Ener-J things? Let's get them out. Get your Ener-Js out for the lads. Oh yeah, smoke alarm, that's another thing we've got to put up. These are the new Ener-J switches. Ener-J, the MK. Okay. Which are compatible with the MK grid range. Oh, eh? Oh, no batteries required because they are kinetic, like TLC's Kinetic range. The receivers are a little bit chunkier than most. That's right.
Oh, sorry, mate, am I disturbing you?
Prick. and we can marry them up with some MK rockers. It's a bit crap that you've got a momentary switch and a rocker switch. You know, what can we do? This is a flat, so we can't run new cables.
Fixings up here.
I don't think we brought the fixings up, no.
May I have the keys, young sir?
While he goes to the van, like a cock, to get the fixing, let's have a little talk about this. We fitted a few of these over the years. They used to be branded as Delucci, but a lot of stuff that cities are selling, they've now started sticking under the generic Fusion brand. But it's exactly the same thing as we've fitted before. Not had any problems with them anywhere we fitted them, and the customers have always liked them. So this is what we have been putting in place of your old fluorescent battens. As you can see, they're a lower profile, they're nice and bright. This is actually a 1200mm model. The old fluorescent light was a 1500, so it's going to be a smaller footprint on the ceiling, but it gives out far more light for your buck. It's got power connectors at both ends and in the middle, so wherever your cable is coming out of the ceiling for your old fluorescent light, you're generally covered, mate. So we'll be sticking, I say it's got power at both ends, I'm pretty sure it has. I might actually be lying, it might actually be one end. I'm going to have to pop that off and have a look now, aren't I, just to satisfy everyone's curiosity. The only thing I don't like about the new model here, compared to the old model, was the old model had a fixed colour. You know, your colour temperature, warm white, cool white, etc. So you just bought whichever one you needed. The new ones are colour selectable. No, I'm a lying twat. There's no, that's where the driver is. So it's only connections in the middle or at one end, but that's okay. If you've got a connection at one end, you just choose the end where the cable comes out, don't you? Now we know, eh? But yes, colour selectable. I'm not a great fan of colour selectable because it means that you're paying for both sets of LEDs to be in the product. You're paying for a bunch of warm white LEDs, you're paying for a bunch of cool white LEDs, aren't you, Mr. Marsh? It's my colour selectable rant. And if you only want one of those, if you're like, I only want warm white, then effectively you're paying for a bunch of LEDs you're never going to use. So, yeah, it's just wasteful of technology, if you ask me. No one's asked me, but I'm offering my opinion anyway.
Hey, it's your video, mate.
Well, this is it. No one asked you to watch. There's our connector in the middle there. The other thing to say about colour selectable is that if you are going to buy colour selectable lights, I prefer one where you've got a switch set in the light itself, so you select which colour you want and it fucking well stays there. With these, they're selected by the user from the light switch. So if you switch it on and off in rapid succession, it'll change to the next colour. Warm white, cool white, daylight, back to warm white. It'll toggle between them. And you don't have to leave it for 5 seconds and it will remember the last setting. So if someone comes into the room, turns the light on, turns it off, goes back in and turns it on. Which happens occasionally. You pop in for a raid of the biscuit tin and you hit the lights and then you think, no, I won't. I'll be good. I won't be a fat bastard like Nigel. And you walk out and then you think, do quite fancy it.
Oh, sorry, mate. Am I disturbing you?
A jammy dodger. Then yes, you end up sort of switching the light between the colour temperatures, and it has the potential to annoy the piss out of you.
Yes. Yes, or confuse. Someone goes, hang on, this room didn't look like this a second ago. What's going on?
Yeah. People go, oh, I don't like the daylight white. It gives me a migraine or whatever. You're going to lose those screws, aren't you? If one of them drops in your pocket, you'll never fucking find it. I bet your wedding ring's in there somewhere.
You don't think I've checked everything many times?
Well, then by the time this video comes out, maybe we'll have found it. Right, so I've got to do something. I'm just standing around yapping. I've got to do something useful now.
Have you done anything?
I haven't, no. I've got to do something. Because we've got an off-peak tail coming through there, the neutral coming through there, another neutral coming through with it, and another off-peak tail going through there. And then the peak tails are together coming through here. I think it'll all come out in the same sort of area. I don't know if they are routed up the wall in the same sort of space, and it's just at the top that they're being split out. We won't know until we take all that apart, which I'm not going to do until I've got the new board on site, and I can't do anyway because at the moment I've got no access to the meter room downstairs, which is locked on a combination lock, so I can't make any of this safe. But it's an interesting arrangement. I guess we'll look to put in a board where we still retain the off-peak. This is redundant, so I'll have to find some way of getting rid of that tail. How you fucking this up?
Fucking it up. Ceiling ain't flat. Look, if I push that up, push it to that end down.
Demonstrate if you please. Oh dear. This is the trouble. We get this quite often with lights where they have the shit bracket that goes on the ceiling.
Yeah.
Is that unless your ceiling's perfectly
you can see
flat,
it's bending the light doing that.
it just doesn't work. But the trouble is anything from fucking Next or Homebase or John Lewis or whatever, it's all the same.
I mean, the holes on this are elongated to push it up, but it's just
not a problem, is what it's just, because what can you do? That's how the manufacturers made it. We can only do our best with
It's disappointing though, isn't it?
who we're presented
try and do
with.
a really good job to get it up there nicely, and it's just not allowed.
These things are all made in the cheapest way possible in Shenzhen somewhere, and what you get is Shen shit.
Yeah, shit zen.
Shit zen, good. I like that better. I'm stealing that.
Yeah.
But it's there, and now I'm just working on getting this switch out. I was rather hoping it'd be a drywall box behind there, but some asshole in the past has put a metal box and a bit of wood behind it.
We can pop that out.
Yeah,
it's going to have to come out.
Yeah, I was just in the middle of it when
I wasn't sure you'd actually started anything.
Because you were crying about the lights.
I take it you've marked them so you know which is which.
Fuck. Give it to me, baby. All the girls say Nigel's pretty fly. For a white guy. Here we go. Ready? Oh, I'll tell you what, that's fucking bright.
It's bright, that's lovely that.
That's it, I'm glad we went for the 1200mm and not the 1500mm. So we've got the two rocker switches for the existing lounge lights. We've got a remote switch for the breakfast bar pendants. No power at the moment, but if I click that. Oh, eh? Oh.
Suit you, sir.
And we've got, well, the warm whites. If I switch off and on again.
Oh, that's a cool white. And a daylight, lovely. It's like sunshine in the kitchen.
It's a real blue, that one, isn't it?
I do like a daylight myself.
And back to warm white. I'm going to leave that on cool, because I think cool is the best use of the technology and the best colour for the room. But I imagine it depends what lamps they put in here, because you won't want a contrast between these and that. And now that we've left that for more than 5 seconds, if I were to turn it off and then come back later and turn it back on, it should remember the cool white, as it does. But you've got to do that sort of 2-second flick to get it to change colour. We haven't put the end caps on yet.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, for the benefit of the audience, you might look at that and think, well, I don't like the end of that, David, you absolute asshole. Well, the end caps will go on and give that a neater finish. Of course, the receivers are located behind this light. Yeah. So someone coming along in the future who isn't us, well, unlucky for a start, because we're boys. But you have to know that that's there when you're trying to figure out how the fuck it all works.
Yeah, looking for the wires.
So good luck with that. What we'll probably do when we change the board out is put a label on the board.
Mixed colours and magic.
Oh, magic happens in this here 90s kitchen.
Yeah.
What else have we achieved today? So that's on. It's not even 4 o'clock yet. Now I just changed the fan for one with a humiditwat. We've got to make sure that does its job. At the moment that's just on, isn't it? He's also put in a new light in the bathroom, which doesn't work.
Doesn't appear to work.
Oh dear.
Both circuits on?
Yeah.
Is there any other light circuit?
No, I'm afraid not, Nigel. So you've cocked that up, and obviously you did your testing on that to ensure that it was all wired correctly.
It is wired correctly.
And yet,
Well, this fan works, eh?
Yeah, at the moment it seems we've got a fan that doesn't turn off and a light that doesn't turn on. So we're doing all right here.
So we'll get the end caps on this and I'll look at that.
Fucking Chee. Eh? A little hiccup there with the light has been sorted. That was down to a
incorrect connector. It's a connector that was split. It looked like a 4-way, but it was two ways.
Incorrect application of a fake Wago connector.
Yes.
In effect. We bought some remote lights off Amazon, remote light switches, and they came with a bunch of fake Wago connectors, some of which have ended up in our Wago
box
and Ideal box, and work in a different way to how Nigel expected it. But I came along and rescued the situation, which is fine. One thing that's pissed me off, the fucking screws.
I've gone through the packaging and everything.
Where are the screws for this fucking thing? That's not the first time I bought an MK grid plate and found there's no screws in the packet. And of course they use some funny screw, I don't know what it is, but it ain't an M3.5, it might be an M3, M2. I think I've got actually some of them on the van, so I'll have to find them. But yeah, always check your MK grid accessories, because they're bastards for leaving the screws out. Yeah. So that's the end of day one. Not that we've been here for the whole day, we only came here for a couple of hours, didn't we?
Less than half a day.
Light up. Switching arrangement sorted. Fan is on the wall. It's a humidistat fan and it's currently spinning because we've just turned the power on. We are hoping that will actually turn off in a moment.
It's the trouble with the humidistat. It can start up and keep going because it thinks it's fucking humid.
And then we've got the bathroom light there, which is an improvement over the little batten fitting that was there before. But our work here is done for today and we can go and tickle each other's bollocks. Oh. Come here.
Jesus Christ, that was a drag. And mark my words, it'll only get worse if these two clowns start fiddling with that bloody storage heater on their second visit. Let's hope we're spared that, as we return to proceedings.
It's all about the storage heater today, and there has been much umming and ahhing between me and the homeowner about what we do with it. Now, obviously she's purchased this flat for rental and doesn't really want to spend stupid amounts on it. It's only a small place, for Christ's sake. She's already putting in a new kitchen, she's going to be doing the bathroom, new consumer unit, updated lights. The storage heater, okay. Now there's 3 storage heaters here. These are perhaps a little less offensive on the eye just because of their size and location, but this bastard in the lounge, fucking hell, it's rusty. How did it even go rusty? It's madness, and it's a hell of a thing on the wall. Not everybody will know how a storage heater works. Apologies if you do, you can skip this next bit. Some countries won't use them at all, I'm sure. The idea behind these things is that they're a bit sort of 70s in their operation, but you know, you can still get them, they still do the job. Is that they turn on at night when energy is cheap. Remember this, back in the 70s, that energy rationing was far more of a thing. The fucking government of the day couldn't even keep the power on for more than 3 days a week at some parts of it.
Fucking Labour government.
Which is why I'm dead against nationalisation of energy, but that's a whole other thing that's got me banned off Twitter. But anyway, one of the ideas was, okay, well, for flats that haven't got gas, we'll put in this storage heater. It can charge up overnight on the cheap rate. Cheap because obviously demand is lower at that sort of time of day, 2 o'clock in the morning, whatever. Takes several hours to charge up. They can slowly release their heat then throughout the day without requiring power at peak times. So you wake up in the morning, off peak switches to on peak, but it's okay because your storage heater has plenty of heat that it can release into your home as you go about your business. How on earth do they charge up? Well, they charge up with these fucking things. These heavy ass goddamn blocks. Now I've just looked all of these up the stairs. That's all my pile there. And that's what Nige just brought up. He's a lazy twat. Only half a job, isn't it, Nige?
I did do half a job.
So we were just saying, as we were lugging these up the stairs, surely in this day and age, they don't need to be an actual like brick anymore. Surely someone can invent something that's made out of some kind of fucking lightweight foam that will do what these do. And what these do is they retain the heat. So let's have the cover off this fucking thing. Nigel's already done the screws, so You hold that with your sandwich.
Okay.
You can't. All right. Well, you can't hold the camera, but he's got the DT shakes. You and me both, mate. Oh, that's not going to show as much, I suppose, is it? Got to take off the inner panel. Down the bottom here, we have a bunch of heating elements. 1, 2, 3, 4 connected in there. And those heating elements sit between the 2 layers of bricks, as these are, these blocks, thermalite blocks, whatever you call them. So you've got heating elements, they heat up these blocks, the elements click off after a few hours of being on, the blocks are still hot, and they are hot, too hot to handle, which means if you've got to replace the storage heater, you've got to make sure the homeowner remembers to switch it off the night before, otherwise it's a no-go. And then what you get is these blocks just radiating heat, which is fine, you know, as a technology. Okay, it's a bit cranky sounding, but it kind of works, So we were discussing with the homeowner whether we should replace this or whether there was something else we could do. She had thoughts of, well, can I tart it up in some way? Difficult, isn't it? I mean, it's a big fucking brown box on the wall. It's not like you can just easily cover it over with anything or repaint it or whatever. The second option would be something like an oil-filled or dry-filled radiator of the same sort of size. The trouble is, a radiator like that, you're going to have to run it at peak times, which means whoever rents this flat has then got to operate the heating at the most expensive part of the day when they need it. It will store a certain amount of heat, but not enough for them to charge it up overnight, so to speak. The effectiveness of storage heaters, there'll be plenty of people who've got opinions on whether they're actually effective or not. Some will say, well, I think that they've leached out all their heat by too early in the day anyway. And other people who say, oh no, I think they're perfectly fine, I get on well with mine. When it comes to operation, these old ones are dead simple. You've got a knob that is for effectively power in through like a variable resistor there or whatever.
Yeah, how hot do you want your brick?
And then a knob for heat out, which as you can see is literally opening mechanical, opening some vents on the top. Some storage heaters, like the other ones in this building, are off-peak only, so they are connected to an off-peak supply, and then a physical time clock clunks them on at night and clunks them off in the morning. So you've got no control over them, it's controlled by a time clock. This one in the lounge has a peak supply. This is actually spurred off the ring socket circuit here. And what that does is it allows the tenant to, at least in the later part of the day, if it has leached out its heat, if it's a particularly cold day, they can switch that on for a boost function to blow out a bit of hot air if a top-up is needed. Sometimes you have also different tariffs, so you might have an economy 7 tariff which only switches on the cheap rate at night. Sometimes you have an economy 10 tariff which switches on the cheap rate at night plus some extra time in the day to top up a storage heater or water heater ready for the evening's use. And that's where we are with that. One big massive pain in the fucking bollocks with storage heaters, aside from the fucking bulk and weight and disposing of the old one, is that in 2018 along came the EU with Lot 20, which dictated how these things should work and decided that these things now needed to be computerized with controls that can sense, for example, an open window. If there's a draft, if it's having to work too hard to heat up the room, it just gives up and stops, that sort of stuff. It assumes you've got windows in. The problem with that is, to run the computer, you need a peak supply.
Yeah.
And many storage heaters don't have that. For example, as I was just saying, in this very place here, very waffly, I know, I'm sorry about this. These are off peak only, there is no peak supply. So sometimes retrofitting one of these means you've now got to get access to a permanently on supply, a spur off the sockets or something like that, or its own feedback to the board. So it's not easy to do a like-for-like replacement. Second problem is that this has caused them to double in price, literally double in price. When I told this lady that it was going to be about 800 quid for a new storage heater, she's like, but the last one you put in for me in 2017 was 400 quid. I checked my records and sure enough, she's right. And it's the same sort of size. The difference though is just that this new one is Lot 20 compliant and has a load of fucking crap we don't want, such as the ability to talk to your phone. Why does everything need that easier? Yeah, it's got fucking Wi-Fi in it so it can talk to an app. Fuck off.
What about those old folk who are having them replaced, and they just want something to keep them warm until they cark it. Yeah.
Exactly that. It's the simplicity of the product in terms of its operation has gone from 2 knobs in and out to some kind of control screen, non-intuitive interface. I've got one of these storage heaters. I don't know if they've changed the interface on this one. The one I put in was perhaps a couple of years ago. It doesn't talk to my phone, thank fuck. But the interface on it is horrendous. I have trouble sometimes coming out in the morning. It's like, why isn't this fucking hot? Why? I've got no idea. Oh, Nigel's just exposed one of the heating elements there. You can see how it curves around the contours of the bricks. So yes, you got a customer who's like a pensioner or something who's used to this. They've got a storage heater that's been there since the 1970s. It's now knackered. It needs replacement. And we're there going, yeah, well, we can't just take one off and put one on. We've now got to run a fucking peak supply to it. It's going to have a computer interface. Good luck using that, Doc.
And where's your smartphone, love?
Yeah.
What?
You're all right if you've got a fucking app on your phone. Yeah. So horrendo balls. We don't like doing them. We don't like doing anything that's newfangled. No. But this is part of the problem. This kind of, it's all well-meaning, I'm sure, to improve energy efficiency and that sort of stuff. But it's all by people who don't think about how these things go out in the field and who's using them. And you end up with these interfaces designed by engineers, which most pensioners aren't. And they don't know how to operate the thing. And we don't really know how to tell them. Especially with these interfaces where they try and minimise them, don't they? So the screen is as small as possible to save money. The buttons, the physical buttons they give you to push are as few as possible. So you're having to navigate through menus as opposed to having perhaps a more simplistic but more featured control panel where you just push a button for it to do a function. Now you've got to find that in the menu and select it and dig down into nested menus to set this thing up how you want it to work. And, well, good luck if you find you can't. We've got to get this lump of fucking dreadfulness off the wall now, and this new lump of dreadfulness out of the box and onto the wall. Usually they're on feet which stand on the floor because they're so goddamn heavy, as well as being secured to the wall. Yeah. So we've got a few screws to undo. That sounds like a partition wall. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see what fixings they've used there. Well, let's get this thing disassembled. I've talked too much already. Yes. Now you might look at this stuff in here and think, whoa, asbestos and all that kind of shit. I think I read somewhere that they haven't put asbestos in storage heaters since about 1973 or something. So unless you're pulling apart a very old heater, then it's not, basically. So this heater will date to the age of the flat, which is mid-90s. Shouldn't be asbestos in here. Nah, John. So we've got to get this top plate off now. There's a couple of screws at the sides there. Yeah. And then hopefully, wow, they've just used red plugs into the wall here. We'll get some proper plasterboard fixings on there, I think. Yeah, they just used standard red plugs in a hollow wall to support the weight of that. If some little kid had grabbed hold of that, they could have wrenched it right on top of them. So lucky that hasn't happened over the last 30 years. We'll make sure our new beast is properly fitted. Speaking of which, it's time to unbox the new beast.
Yeah. Right, if I lift, do you want to hold it up at all?
It ain't going anywhere.
Yeah.
Heat store. Funnily enough.
Oh, Jesus.
What?
Just got static shock off it.
No, it's all right. Hate static shocks. Yes, it's a heat store, which is City's own brand. Funnily enough, if you're buying heat store from City's, Denman's Designer from Denman's, or Dimplex, they're all kind of the same fucking thing. I think they're all off the same fucking production line. It's just that the heat store and Denman's Designer ones are just a little bit cheaper, not by much. But they all look the same, work the same, have the same horrible man-machine interface. This looks like the same interface that mine's got. It's all rather horrible. And a right fucking pain in the arse to set up. So we're going to offer this up to the wall, we'll get it fixed on, we'll get some decent plugs off the van so that it's nice and stable.
I'll leave one screw in each side.
And I'll have to go and see if I've got any heat resistant flex actually. Oh, you're having lots of fun, aren't you, Lige? It's like playing with Lego, isn't it? Sticking all these bricks together. The new heater has longer elements, doesn't it, that traverse horizontally across the thing, as opposed to the old one which had smaller but more vertical elements. Really got to pack those bricks in tight. Meanwhile, I've just been out and picked up a length of heat resistant flex so that I can get it connected up to the peak and off peak supplies.
The last one in each row is a pain. It's tight.
And then we can fire this up. We can't fire it up on the off peak because that is a supply that's mechanically clonked on at a particular time of day. That's not being now at 1:45 in the afternoon. Right, this thing's connected up. Well, I say connected up. The off peak isn't. The off peak's still powered off. That's only because I don't have a 20 amp switch with the flex out. But the peak is on. The horrible computer thing is on. And it's the same interface as mine used. I never did figure out mine, so it's absolutely fucking potluck as to whether it's going to work or not. No timer boost set those. Yeah, just, you know, what does all this mean? We can be asked to read a fucking manual about a storage heater. But I've read all this before because I had to go through mine to get it set up, and I never did figure out why it behaves in the way it behaves. So it's one of those things. We've got this fucker in, and no doubt we'll be getting a call once the tenant's in, going, "How do I actually get this thing to work?" And we're like, "Oh fucking hell, we've got to figure that out." So we'll just leave on the manual, and hopefully they can figure it out for themselves because I don't really want to know. How do you turn it off? The old one, you want it on or off? There's a fucking switch just there. Look, see that? This one, you want it on or off? Fucked if I know, mate. I can turn it off at the wall, but fucking crap. Man with the fan plan. Off comes the old beast in the kitchen. On goes a new, what is it? Expeller, Ventaxia? Which one did we go for? Expeller, isn't it? It's a Ventaxia, is it? I've got some screws now. I've just got some M3 screws to go into this grid switch because MK seemed to forget to put them in the packet again. Okay. So they're M3.5 to go into your standard accessories, M3 for the faceplate on this thing. You're having a bad day, aren't you, Nige?
Fucking am having a bad day. Right from the get-go, I've had a bad day.
These centrifugal fans can be flush mounted or surface mounted. If you want to surface mount it, you have to fit that sleeved piece on before you stick it on the wall.
Yeah, but that ain't a bad day, is it?
You're doing a sterling job, Nigel. Next job will be consumer unit replacements, and I shall be putting in, you know me, I like the SBS dual buzz bar stuff. This is the first time I've done a peak and off-peak board, so it's all built into one board here with a peak supply on the left, off-peak on the right. I had to use their board builder on their website to get that configured. They've done the rear knockouts for me and lined them, and obviously they've put all the breakers in, so it comes pre-assembled. I've just taken it out of the packet, and yes, that's a thing of loveliness.
Fuck's sake. There was a lot of moaning going on in that previous segment. The next visit had better not be so friggin' tedious.
Today is the day that this stuff, after 30 odd years on the wall, comes off the wall and gets changed out for my rather swish new SBS peak stroke off peak bad boy motherfucker. So yes, that should be a lot of fun to do, and by fun I mean no fun whatsoever, because I've said many times before, not a fan of doing consumer units. Bit of a shame about the old storage heater here, because I have this letter that came through to me in 2019 from a place in Coventry that used to offer to buy pre-lot 20 storage heaters. I don't know what they did with them, refurbished them or bastardized them so that they could keep older heaters working and people wouldn't have to go for these horrible new computerized things, but they seem to have disappeared. The phone number's not working for them anymore, which is a bit of a shame. So I was rather hoping I could call them up and say, look, I've got this lump here. I don't want any money for it. They offered to buy them, but I was like, just fucking take it away, because what am I going to do with it? The metalwork there, that's no problem at all. I can get the scrappy out for that. It's the fucking bricks. What do you do with old storage heater bricks? Sometimes the scrappy will take them with the storage heater, just so that when they get away their load in at the weighbridge, it looks like they've got more weight than they really have, which is a little unscrupulous, but there you go. But yes, I'm on my own today, so I'm not looking forward to having to lug them down to the van. It's Nigel's birthday. I'm not going to say how old he is, 55, but he doesn't like to work on his birthday. So he's had the day off and left me to it, which is okay, because, you know, changing out this beastie, it's really a one-man job, isn't it? There's not something that two of us can really do, and there's not a lot else here for us to do at the moment. There is still some work to do on the hot water system, but if two of us were trying to work in that space, because that's in there, we'll just get in the way. I'm going to stop yapping, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to go down to the source of the installation, the meter room in the basement. I'm going to have a peek at what's feeding this. I'll tell you what, let's get that RCD one last trip off, just for old time's sake. So what we need to do is, we've got a peak supply and off-peak supply. We need to make sure that they're isolated. So let's go and isolate those. Walks lordy. Meter rooms, don't you just love them? It's taken a bit of working out this, because for some bizarre reason things aren't labelled up particularly sensibly. So you've got like 90, 88, 93, 87. We're in flat 24, and it doesn't go anywhere near the 90s, so I don't know what these high number references mean, but what I can determine is that, well, this says it's for the meter for flat 29, which ought to be ours. We have a peak and off peak, so the off peak goes to this block here where it splits out into two. We've got one going through a fuse, which if we follow it, as I've already done, so you don't have to, it goes to this board here. Now this board feeds, or this KMF switch rather, feeds a board up there that's just for the water heater. It's a bit weird, I don't know why they put an extra board in just for that, so there's 3 boards up there. You've got a peak board, an off-peak board, and then an off-peak board just for the water heater. But someone at some stage has moved the water heater to the peak board, so this is doing nothing at all and is effectively redundant. The other off-peak goes out here, round to this one here. This is your KMF switch for your off-peak board feeding the storage heaters. And this is all assumes, of course, that this number is right and this is flat 29. Otherwise, I'm going to be switching some motherfucker's electricity off in a minute. And then the peak supply, which comes out the meter separately. Well, we can follow that more easily because it's on new colour tails for some reason. They must have done that when they upgraded the meter. They put a smart meter in. Mains power and lighting. So that's our peak supply. And again, we'll be isolating those off. And obviously the best way perhaps to isolate them off is to switch them all off and withdraw the fuses. Looking at this lot, actually, there's only 2 smart meters, and I know there is a smart meter feeding that flat because it's got the companion unit upstairs. Therefore, there is a very good chance that this is indeed my meter of interest. The only other one it could be is this one. I think it says it's for flat 34. Yes, flat 34. So unless they've got their labelling transposed, then it ought to be a pretty safe bet that I'm switching off the right KMFs here, and I'm not about to plunge old Mrs. Miggins into darkness as she tries to watch Bargain Hunt on the TV or something like that. So let's have it off, so to speak, and withdraw these fuses. It looks like it's on a 10-hour tariff here. We mentioned that the other day about the storage heaters, maybe on a tariff that switches them on again in the afternoon. So this is all controlled by time switching in this thing here. Used to be in the past that your meter and your time switch are separate things. You can see you've got a couple of old time switches there. Usually they've got a date on them. Can we see a date? 1993. So that's they would have got in when the place was built. You know, the place is sort of a mid-90s arrangement. You would have had one of them probably up here or round here for our flat at some point, and it's been taken out because it's all done by the smart meter these days. Okay, here goes nothing. See if someone comes running down in a minute going, "What are you doing? You've turned off my power, you bastard." 80 amp fuse. These all look like they're the same. This one's different. 40 amps for the immersion heater. Fair enough. Okay. The TIS 845 says this is indeed dead. So looks like I've got the right ones. Super duper. Okay, you know, I think I might just stick this on a time lapse and have all this labelled up and taken off, and then we'll see what horrors lie behind it that I've got to work around today. Oh, that was fun. Awful lot of stuff on the floor. Awful lot of wire coming out of the wall. I don't know why there was a switch here with press written upon it, a momentary switch. You had this 2.5 from goodness knows where was passing through this board into this dryline box, and then you had a 1mm twin and earth coming off it, which just didn't go anywhere, so it wasn't doing anything. It's dead. I'm just not sure what that was ever for, or why they don't stick a switch with press written on it so high up the wall. If it was something like a door release, then I suppose, I don't know, you might want to keep it out of the way of kids or whatever, but that's taking the piss a bit, isn't it, all the way up there. But this is the door release mechanism, and that looks pretty original to the place, so I don't know. You tell me what you think it was, but it ain't doing zippity-doo-dah now. This is our tail coming in from the KMF switch for the water heater. That's redundant, so we can disconnect that out of the KMF switch and lose that. So we don't need to worry about that sort of side of things too much, although there's a pretty awful gash in the wall, but the decorator's coming in next week, so they'll have to just make good anything that needs making good. Peak tails coming in off the peak KMF switch, peak circuits, with the exception of what was the water heater that was in the junction box up there, so I'm going to have to extend that, but that's okay. We've then got an after-market shower, something that's been retrofitted in trunking at some stage, so I'm going to have to bring that into the board. And the best bet with that, if this is all hollow behind here, is probably to get that cable in the wall, or get the CU at a same sort of height as it was before, of course. And then you've got the off-peak for the storage heating. Sorry if I'm pointing this camera the wrong way. I can't get used to this newfangled camera that has no viewfinder for me to look at. But we have here the tail for the off-peak coming from its KMF switch. It's all going to be rear entry for the new board, and SBS, I had a chat with them about how I wanted my bespoke board to be made. So we've arranged it so that we've got the peak side on the left, which is where these tails are, the off-peak on the right, and they've kindly sent me the label sheets that have the main switch going from right to left and from left to right, so that I can label it accordingly. Mechanics. It's the mechanics of this stuff that I don't like. That's what I don't like about board changes. Mechanics, especially with retrofit. New builds or new installs, fine. But when you're trying to get something onto an existing wall in place of what was there, and you're coping with where all the wiring is sprouting out, it can all be rather a ball ache. But the board is mechanically in place at last. I've had to put some screws in different places to where I would ordinarily, simply because there are wooden battens behind here that I've wanted to secure it to, so it's nice and solid on there. Of course, the big problem, as you may have noticed previously, which I didn't really account for at the time until I went to put this on and thought, shit, is that the neutrals were all cut very short on all of these circuits. Loads of length on the line. CPCs are a bit short as well in places, but the neutrals, they just kind of come out the wall by a few centimetres, and that's it. There's no way they're going to get around to where they need to be. These aren't too bad. I can extend these inside the CU itself, but the others, there was just no way I was going to get the placement on the wall in the right way, so I've had to take it up the arse with a IP box, which I shall use for extending this little lot, and then I should take new feeds out into the board. There'll be a bit of decorative repair that's going to be made to the walls again. There's a decorator coming in. The shower, I've brought the shower trunking down to the top of the board and then brought the cable around behind it, so the top of the board remains sealed. Not much else to say really, other than the fact that now the mechanics are done, it's down to the electrics after lunch of course. So I shall go and grab my lunch and then I shall come back, and it's just then a case of connecting wires from A to B throughout, which again isn't much fun. Probably not going to record anything there, but hopefully next time I switch the camera on will be the magic bit where it's all on and done and I can go and get ready to make my escape for the day. Let's see what happens in just a tick. Whoa, 10 to 4 and the sun's setting. I'll tell you what, when British summertime ends, it certainly starts to get dark quickly. Right, all this is back on the wall. I'm just taking stuff back to the van. If I've still got those fuses, it's time for me to power this bad boy back up. Actually quite a pleasant afternoon. Right, let's get this thing fired up once more. What I need to do now, of course, is get the cover on, get it labelled up, and then I can get the lights back on in here. I suppose if I'm here first thing in the morning, I don't need to take all my stuff with me. Can leave some of it around, that's always quite nice, isn't it? So I'll probably sign out for today and catch you back in the morning when Nigel is here.
Well, I guess the last segment wasn't so bad. I prefer these videos when it's just the good-looking fellow, but the old fucker with the beard really puts me off my cornflakes.
What are you doing, you daft bastard?
Trying to clear up your fucking mess.
Clearing up? Do we look like bloody plumbers? We've got a reputation to keep, we don't bloody clear up.
Of course we do, every time.
Unbelievable. I was just saying on camera yesterday about how he didn't have to do this shit, and look at him, dangling his nozzle in front of himself as usual. Obviously it's the day after yesterday. It's tomorrow. Today.
Tomorrow, today. They say tomorrow never comes. Well, here it is.
Yeah, it is. And here's Nigel coming all over the floor with his nozzle in his hand. Obviously Nigel was off yesterday when the hard work was being done.
I took my birthday off.
No surprise there. Yes, Nigel is now older looking, as you can see.
Yeah.
How old are you, Nigel?
45.
45.
What a life.
You wish. If only your punk rocker self could see you now.
Aged.
On your knees with a vacuum cleaner, voting Tory. I'm going to go down to the meter room and cut off or disconnect from the KMF switch what was the old water feed. I wonder why they ever did that separately. And then we've got this curious cable here which is dead and was going to the press switch that does nothing, and goodness knows what that was ever for, so we'll just lose that. Some of the basic labelling on the board, I've only just sort of temporarily stuffed the cover on for the moment because I need to take that off again. So I haven't labelled up the storage heaters. So, you know, bits and bobs to do, but the main cut and indeed thrust, once Nigel's finished his womanly duties, is to do something about the water heaters. 2 immersion heaters, we just did a video about immersion heaters, didn't we?
Did we?
Yeah, I say we, you would just turned up for the coffees at the end, as usual. Yeah. 2 immersion heaters, that's a hell of a tank, isn't it? You were saying about the size of that tank, weren't you, Nigel?
Yeah, it's a big old tank.
It is a big old tank. It's a motherfucking big tank. So that boost heater, which is often like my old heater at the top of the tank,
Yeah.
That's halfway up the bloody thing in of its own.
See, I'm not sure because there's a separation if that's just a cold water tank at the top piece.
Oh, you think
the head of the
yes? Look at the whole cock-shaped shaft of this thing.
shaft thing.
The Bellendius dome is perhaps something different to the main shaft. Yeah, we don't know. We don't know. What are we?
We're not plumbers.
Do we look like fucking plumbers? Well, you do because you've got a vacuum cleaner in your hand. Yeah, in fact, yes, I think you're right because there is a pipe coming off that, which has got to be the hot output, isn't it? So that must be something else. Oh, what do I know? I'm sure some bright spark will tell us in the comments.
Yeah.
Anyway, what we have here is a rather pants arrangement for water heating at present, and that you have your isolator, which comes into a dangly whisker box. I don't know what someone was thinking there. And then out to just the boost heater. The bottom heater isn't connected. I'll tell you what, Nigel, if you'd like to hold the camera for a moment. I believe when we were talking about water heaters in a previous video that you may or may not have been in, that I can't remember now, we were mentioning that these are just a resistive load, and you can easily check for operation of the immersion heater using an ohm meter. Now, my rather wonderful TIS 845, as well as being a voltage and continuity tester, also does homage. A homage to homage. I remember doing a formula on the screen. In fact, what happened was I had to buy a bottle of whiskey for that video because I wanted a shot of where I was pouring whiskey into a glass at the side of a bath. And then I just fucking necked the cunt. And the next day I'll do these slides, a bottle of whiskey to the good. And I flipped to one of the formulas one way around and I said 230 volts over 3000 watts equals about 19 ohms. Whereas, of course, it should have been 3000 watts over 230 volts. Sorry about that. Either way, we should get 1920 ohms out of a working heater, 3 kilowatt heater. So let's switch that into resistance. Looks pretty good to me, boy. Same for this one down here. That doesn't obviously prove that the thermostats are working. We can still do a continuity check through those perhaps, but yeah. Obviously we will do an IR test as well. That was also mentioned in the previous video about water heaters that you may not have been involved with, Nigel. In that, we'll check line neutral together with respect to the earth on this big copper bastard to make sure that there's no problem there, mate. And then we shall change this assembly for one of these things, Sangamo Power Saver Dual Motherfucking Flexi. That's a non-programmable timer, so we just set it up and tell it that it's on an economy tariff of some kind, economy 7, economy 10. It will then control operation of the lower heater, won't it? Which you can always turn off if you don't want it on while you're on holiday or whatever. And then if you want a bit of boost heating from the top heater, oh, you hit that rather pleasant boost button. Oh, give that a fingering, Nigel.
I'm not sure what you find place.
Okay, fair enough. Maybe just let me just say your missus would like that kind of thumb action.
Yeah,
Fact.
she would.
Just have that out. And then we can chop the other end of that off back at the flat. Should have brought my big cutters with me. I've only got my CK combi cutters here, but never mind. That'll do it, I suppose. Tell you what, I'll leave that just poking in there like that. Keeps it clear and out of the way then, doesn't it? Get me Sharpie. Flat 29. Not in use. Lovely. Saw this on Twitter today from MET Electrical Services. I think he's taking the picture while at Alex. I'll put a better picture on the screen now. What do you think, Nige?
I think it looks like a toy. A child's learning toy. I like it when complicated things look complicated.
Yes, it's an interesting one, isn't it? I'm kind of inclined to agree with you rather on that there.
Not that it needs to be complicated to operate, but it needs to... take that on site, someone's going to think you bought your kid's toy to work with.
You've got to be a bit careful that you don't end up making your test equipment look a little bit too Fisher-Price.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Fisher-Price.
I think some manufacturers of test equipment fall foul of that sometimes. I always thought that a bit with our original blue metal tester, that the colour was a bit baby blue, you know, and it's been like... I like a good yellow one myself.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Yellow has a sort of
the fluke yellow
caution
yeah.
look about it. Yeah, it's good for sort of, especially when it's been greased up a bit and it looks a bit
needs to look like
grotty.
A workman's tool, not like a kid's toy. And I think, yeah, I think they've got some soppy bird in to design these damn things.
Christ. I did a video with the...
You're gonna edit me that?
No, maybe I'll probably just leave that in because there's probably all sorts of horrible cuts in this already. I did a video with the great James Beck a year ago where we were discussing testers, and I had my TIS MFT Pro in my toolbox at that point because I had my ultimate electrician's toolbox as opposed to today with my ultimate electrician's toolbox. And I said to him that when I open that up, I want people to see, you know, there's a bit of kit in there. There's something in there. It's like, oh, I say that's something interesting. That's not in my DIY box. That's not on the shelf at home base. What's that? What does that do? Yeah. It's got a screen on it. It's all these buttons and things. And yeah, I think, you know, that you want to feel like a bit of the cock and balls about the thing, don't you? When you open your box and there's something in there that looks like a complicated instrument.
A professional bit of kit.
Exactly that, yes. And I think there is a problem where some manufacturers, if they dumb it down too much, make it all a bit too much touchscreen and not enough knobs, that they do run the risk that, I don't know, you come to a point where you're like...
Well, for a start, you've got battery life when you've got a touch screen.
A colour screen like that as well, yeah. I know that our newer Metral, that does eat the batteries a lot more compared to something like our old MFT, the old Mega up there, which is still doing the job for us out on site, isn't it? Not to put the boot in too much because we haven't seen it. It might be a fantastic thing, of course, but on the face of it, I'm not sure that we like the aesthetic. And it seemed to be a few people on Twitter, there's sort of a bit of polarisation. Some people going, wow, what's that? And others going, ooh, I don't know about that. New tings from Mega on Twitter. And thank you to MET Electrical Services for putting that picture up. Nigel's having super fun time with this controller. Is it just the access that's the pain in the buttocks?
Absolutely.
Trying to work around the monster tank. Have you had a monster tank today, Nigel? T&I label in place. And those offcuts are gone, still got to put a blank on that. Let's do that. But the next job is the smoke alarm. This is actually a powered smoke alarm. One thing to say about smoke alarms. If it looks that fucking brown on your ceiling, it's had its chips. You're supposed to replace them every 10 years, smoke alarms generally. I'm never quite sure how much of a fucking con that is, whether that's just a way for them to sell you new smoke alarms or whether there is... I think the ionisation alarms, there was always that element, that thing with the radioactive symbol on that sort of perhaps decayed, but with the optical alarms, which are all you can buy these days because you can't get the ionisation anymore. I say all you can buy, they're the kind of entry-level ones. It's perhaps not so critical, the age, other than the fact that they might argue that dust or debris or insects get into it and clog it up, potentially. It comes off quite easily in the end. Fire sentry, smoke alarm, model 1255. This has got a manufacture date of March 94 on it. Contains radioactive material. This device contains 0.9 microcurie of americium. I'm not even sure what that says. I haven't got my glass. Americium 241.
Pure enough.
March 94. Where were you in March 94?
Probably stoned and playing the guitar.
I was just starting my career at Cable and Wireless at March 94. Changing that is my next task. While Nige finishes off the easy job that he's doing over there that he's making a meal of. You see, that's what a smoke alarm should look like, Nigel. Right. Virginal whiteness upon your ceiling, your shitty Artex ceiling. Virginal, Nigel. Oh, he's still on that controller down there. Labelled at which circuit the smoke alarm is on. It happens to be on the lighting circuit here. And of course these Echoes come with this rather handy little stickerette where you can detail what kind of alarm you've installed, where, how many there are, and when they need to be replaced by. For shits and giggles, I like to keep as much labelling out of the way as possible, although my new super one-size-fits-all label is on the front. I don't know why they ever put a fucking phone point there. That just seems to be the most ridiculous place to stick a phone point. I presume they thought that someone would just have the phone on the wall here. That would have been
like the 70s, you know, the old trim phone on the front.
Yeah, that's it, the old trim phone on the wall or something, yeah. I mean, you've got to remember that this dates to 94, this installation, so people didn't have broadband back then, there was no router to plug in. People didn't really have cordless phones too much either, did they? They were kind of just coming in then. I remember I got my first cordless phone around 99, I think it was actually. And that was a horrible analogue thing with a massive aerial. Hello? No, I can't hear you. Reception's shit. Let me stand a metre closer to my base station. Always a bit of a daft place for the phone point, but we have determined, or have determined by taking it off, that the cable comes down this thing here, which they're talking about ripping out, so that'll be interesting if it's coming out from the ceiling up there. Ideally, we want to get it sort of over near a socket outlet somewhere, but I think we're going to wait until the kitchen's ripped out for that. Well said, Nigel, well said.
God, this just keeps on going. Surely nobody's still watching. Let's cut the crap to a whole week later.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Mr. Savoury. Fancy a cup of tea?
Well, yes, please, Mr. Marsh, if you would be so kind.
Let me get the tea out of the cupboard. Oh, hang on.
Fucking
What's
hell.
going on here?
A week on from me being here fitting that consumer unit, and the kitchen fit has been in.
Yes.
And we have a kitchen that is certainly an improvement on what was here before.
Yes.
Obviously the tiling's still to be done, but yes, we've just turned up today and some issues have arisen. For a start, this light they told us to hang in the breakfast bar space, well, nobody ever mentioned anything about a fucking wall cupboard going on the wall there. And that's gone on.
This
and
has got big glass. Big glass balls.
This is what happens when you don't have a kitchen plan and when you just say, yeah, simply stick that up there. No one's directed us to do anything about it. We haven't been told, oh, this fouls the light, we need to move it.
I think we should leave it and wait for the owner to go, oh, hang on.
So we're going to have to move that across. The telephone line, as we said, we suspected was coming down the false wall. Well, it sure is. What an asshole piece of building.
Down there.
Well, it's got to be somewhere near a socket, hasn't it? Because you're going to want to plug a broadband router in. And it was always a bit of a weird space where it was before. It was presumably in the 90s they thought, well, someone can stick a telephone on the wall and be done with it. But yeah, it's times have changed in the past 30 years, and it's not a telephone you want to plug into anymore. It's a fucking powered router. So that's just an asshole bit of design, because that was always a false wall. It was never structural. The builders must have thought when they put it in that, you know, one day, someone might just want to take it out, might just want to open that space up a bit. But no, they're going to put a service down it. They're going to put a fucking telephone line down it. So we've got to see if we can get that rodded across in some way, shape and or form. We also need high level power for that recirculating cooker hood. We thought that the ventilation was just going to be via this thing here, and that, you know, they weren't going to bother with anything over the hob.
There's cupboards on the wall. How are we going to...
How indeed, Mr. Marsh. This certainly seems to be your problem today. Nigel's got his rod in his hand. Done that joke too many times. We think we've got a bit of a lattice work frame above this ceiling. We've got holes at the top of the woodwork going across and holes at the bottom of the woodwork going that way, we think. We're hopeful that we can rod across. Certainly looks like you're getting up to your balls in there, Mr. Marsh. We're hoping you can rod across all the way to the wall. Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah. Certainly block us up. It is at a slight, oh no, might be slightly over that way, but it's up there in some...
Fuck you. If we open up the wall at a high level up here, then hopefully we'll be able to retrieve the rodage. Either that or perhaps shove up our super rod cable tongue, maybe from this end over that way. Ways and means. Ways and means.
I've tried that, it ain't going to work.
You tried it from that end. I'm wondering if it will curve around and get through the other. Ways and means?
No, well,
Nudge says it won't work. Sometimes the tongue gets us where the rods can't.
yeah, absolutely, yeah. And that all walks of life.
Quite. It's a very profound statement, that. Right, yeah, so if we open up the wall at a high level there, hopefully we can get our telephony cable across. It's quite a long cable, that, as well, isn't it? I reckon there's a bit of... Do you want to pull down the sockets just there? If we have to extend it, then we'll extend it. Yeah, we'll have to extend it. But that's okay, we can do that. There's probably some BT engineer watching this going, oh, you should be messing about with that, that's our fucking equipment. Yeah.
You did the tongue on the other side.
That's because I'm so inexperienced in sucking another man's cock, Nigel, but
Absolutely.
I would take your expert opinion for it. I'll be no good at sucking him out. I've got a terrible gag reflex. I'd just be sick all over his balls. So I'd be the worst gay bloke ever. But I'm sure that you've got it all down to a fine art, haven't you now? So we'll open that up. I keep saying this. We'll open that up at a high level. That'll allow us, in theorem, to get our telephone cable across to this wall, where we can then hopefully bring it down in a dot and dab fashion. Yes. To some kind of level. I'd prefer it to be down there, perhaps. But maybe we'll just bring it out here. I mean, it doesn't really matter. I mean, as long as it's near a socket, so they can plug in a router somewhere. What does it matter if it's on the kitchen surface or on the fucking floor down there? While we've got a hole in the wall up here, we're doing too much talking and not enough action. We may use that hole in the wall then to perhaps send power up. So we might spur off here, send a cable up, mains cable up through the dot and dab to our opened up hole there. So we'll open it up as a one gang sized format. Yeah. I can really do with a sausage sandwich right now, you know. I've got the real sort of I want breakfast vibes going on here. But maybe we should do some of the mechanics of this first and then get some breakfast. We'll open up a hole up there. we'll get power up to there. And then we'll see if we can rod across, either rod across to the hood position, or, as Nigel said earlier, in one of his fits of having a possibly good idea, maybe pull that cable across and then over and bring it through the ceiling.
Just straight across.
Nigel's just marking out where he's going to put the fuse unit and phone socket. Good news, and there is good news, is that we're the boys with the rods. Check us out with our super rod, super cam, which has provided us with some aids, hasn't it, Nigel?
Yes.
Can I get the camera then, if I can get the camera up there? There you go, there's our view. So yes, we've managed to get the rod from here to there, so that's our phone cable that we'll be able to get through, and we did that with the aid of our super cam. It's all gone Doctor Who. No, don't do it! We've got the provision for a cable to go up from a fuse unit up to there, which will blank off to denote a zone, and then across to what will be a socket here, because this is on a plug top. So that'll be controlled from down there. And then we'll have to move this fucking thing.
Well, because it used to be central, we can move it more central, maybe.
We'll get the laser on there, centralise it all. Anyway, breakfast is calling. So let's get her moving.
Yes.
How can you get a Christmas cup from Greg's and I get a normal non-Christmas cup?
Well, because she was trying to send a message to me.
What's the message? That you look like Father Christmas?
Merry Christmas, Tasty.
A drunken Father Christmas. Oh yes. Very, very tasty. It's quite tasty as well. I like a Greg's coffee. We have the power off to the lights, as you can see, because Nige is relocating the bar light. Why do a job once when you can do it twice?
Well, I say.
I've also connected up the oven and hob, so they are now on and operational. Phone socket and fuse for the cooker hood are on the wall there. It all kind of looks a little bit on the piss, but the level does say it's level, so I don't know, maybe it's just my eyesight. Maybe I'm on the piss. Wouldn't be the first time. Illumination for this particular part of the work, since the light circuit is off, it's been provided by our new Unilite RL5250, which is a monster of a thing, isn't it? Didn't come with that tripod, but I put the tripod on it because this is exactly what we needed it for, isn't it? This kind of thing where it's a dark November afternoon and you need some extra light. Besides the various other Unilite torches we tend to carry as well. Unilite being the boss. I know they don't pay us to say that, they pay money to say that, don't they? Really get paid to say
when we say.
It's you know, we have been out for a Greg's. It's only 12:44, and I was just saying to Nigel, you kind of look at this really grim sort of late autumn light out there, and it just feels like it's fucking 4 o'clock, doesn't it?
And the light off that is really good. Don't know what the battery life's like on it.
Yeah, that's on maximum brightness. I don't imagine that it would last too long, to be fair on that. I can turn it down. I can even make a half lantern out of it.
That's very romantic.
There we go, half lantern. It's like a big camping light, isn't it? So I suppose for your purposes, you only need that really, don't you?
Yeah.
Don't need to be lighting up the rest of the room. I reckon I can hit Nigel in the bollocks with my coffee cup. I'll tell you what, Mr. M, I do believe our work here is done. Barring any other surprises.
I think this is very nice.
That is a nice dustpan, isn't it? And that's a nice dustpan brush.
I mean, it's not good for big chunks of rubble, but the last bits of dust, it does beautifully.
Very rare to see a Sparky with a dustpan, but
It's actually a good one.
yeah, it's got J. Beck written on the back of it.
Is that who makes it?
must be the manufacturer. Either that or I might have stolen it accidentally off James Beck. Sorry, James. If you ever want it back, you let us know. It's a very good dustpan.
It's being used.
Used and abused.
They've used it to brush his hair as well. You can't tell because he's got his hands.
That's why I've had to put the tea cosy on. Normally we don't like to hide plug tops behind things like cooker hood chimneys, but seeing as it'll be fused from down here, it doesn't really matter, I guess. 7 amps.
Oh!
Wow, have you ever seen a 7 amp fuse? That's a rarity, isn't it?
7 amp fuse.
It's very specific as well.
Yes, you could have said 7.27.
I'm not sure why you'd have a 7 amp fuse.
I don't know if you see that on this. 7 amp fuse. 7 amp fuse.
Nobody cares.
I do.
There you go. You have the 13 and stick it. No, that's not right. That's the one I just took out of there. You have the 7, which you just had. Stick it in there. And I'll bob the 13 into here. And then if a fuse is going to blow, it's going to be the accessible one.
Certainly is.
In theorem. I feel that's a bit low, don't you think?
It is very low.
That should be up there somewhere.
Maybe they'll be renting it out to a short person.
The thing is, you're getting something out of the oven, you're going to fucking clock your head on that, aren't you?
You want them. That's so high, don't you?
Let's just check the angle of the swing there. Oh!
Is that going to hit it with this glass on?
No, because would you like to go and fetch a bowl?
We did measure it.
We'll check that.
I'd like to know. Okay.
Right, ready for the rapid? It's going to smack you in the face. Allow the camera to see. If you put your head right there.
Oh, I can see. Oh, that is close. But still.
No, that's perfectly fine, isn't it? You couldn't have it much further over this way because otherwise it's going to start.
Oh no, it's only going to be a problem if they're swinging in like.
You know what I'm saying? You know?
At last, that's got to be the end of it. Surely to God these Burks didn't have to come back the following week for anything else.
Just when we think we're out, 12 days from when we were last here thinking, that's us done and dusted, and we're back.
Yeah.
We're back. Why? Why are we back, Nigel?
She doesn't like this.
They don't like the light.
This is great. Look at the light it gives.
The bright light, yes.
What she wants in its place. Fucking dog shit.
Yeah, well, that's fine, that's fine. We'll take this down and credit her back. And we've got another job we can use it on, actually. So that's okay. That's going to work out all right for all concerned. The decorator's obviously been in, patched up an hole there and put in some stipply effect to try and tie it in with the rest of the ceiling. Personally, I think I would have had that smoothed out. I don't know why anybody ever thought a stippled ceiling was a good look. Kitchen floor's gone in. I think, you know what, I reckon this is new carpet. Either that or they've bloody cleaned it. But yes, the carpet's looking fine. The kitchen's looking pretty snazzy. Metro tiles are going on. Our board's still there with a bit of tape over the shower circuit. Don't know why. It's an SBS board. You've got double pole isolation right there. You've also got double pole isolation right here. So if the bathroom fitter is worried about accidentally blowing himself up, then he needn't be, because he has 2 points of isolation and no electrical tape is needed. Apparently a towel rail's got to go in here as well, electric towel rail, so we'll have to put something through the wall. Probably won't film that. For goodness sake, this bloody video is already horrendously long, and every time we think we're done, something else happens. So we'll change this light out today, and that'll be the bally end of it. I don't know why as well the tiles, what are they going to do about, I suppose they're just going to grout around there.
Yeah.
What do you think about that then, Marshall?
I think it's shite next to you as well.
Yeah.
The light just isn't the same. It's not even. You've got a lot more shadowing.
It's probably not going to be too much of a problem because you have got the lights in the cooker hood. You will have lights over the bar. It will cause some shadowing, and I appreciate.
Shadow.
Yeah. Well, if you're working over there, you'd have that one, wouldn't you? A bit less shadow. I appreciate that. You know, the last light was very bright. When we put it in, we said, "My goodness, this is bright." I'm glad we went for the 1200mm, not the 1500mm. But
I thought it was great, innit?
Yeah. Well, who knows?
I do.
Nige knows.
I know.
And Nige prefers what was there before. And the new light doesn't have the footprint of the old one, so the decorator.
Did you move one of them?
I've moved them all to points.
Right, I was going to say I pointed one over there.
Yeah, well,
they can have lights over that.
They can adjust them as they see fit, but yes, I've pointed them all toward the kitchen end, because the problem with spotlights like that is if you can end up, if you point it in this direction, it's going to be kind of in your face every time you're looking into the kitchen from the living area.
If you're in the living room area, you shouldn't leave your kitchen lights on. We can't afford that anymore.
Well, yes, but maybe the wife is in the kitchen doing the cooking and cleaning, as she should be, and the husband is sitting playing the PlayStation and
as he should be.
Drinking beer, as he should be.
Yes.
We all have our roles to fulfill.
Yes.
So, you know, the last thing you want when you're drinking beer and playing PlayStation is to look over at the wife to say, "Where's my fucking dinner?"
Where's my
and
sandwich?
Get glare from the lighting in the kitchen.
Yeah.
So we've got to think of these things. It's a good job we think of these things, so you don't have to. Let's sign this one off and see what those two idiots are doing for the coffee shout-outs on this one.
Yes.
TTFN.
Yeah. Back to the studio. Go.
Fuck me. Game over.
Welcome once again to our new coffee studio, our new roller coaster themed coffee studio.
Yeah.
How do you like roller coasters, Nige?
I'm not a fan. I
This is
was
gonna
when
be
I was
fun.
a kid, but I don't. No.
Right, if you're going to have a coffee, we haven't had too much success in our previous studios, and those thinking that, you know, maybe this is all just a mock-up or something like that.
Oh.
We had a shark come through the window of the last one, and if you look behind me, it says a whole new window frame in, so come on, we ain't going to that much fucking effort, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
In fact, I'm not quite sure how you escaped from that shark, Nige, because I bravely pushed you into the shark's mouth in order to make my own getaway when that happened. And,
Yes, I remember.
I believe you
remember.
have a very interesting tale of how you managed to get away.
Well,
Another time, maybe. Tell us all about it sometime, won't you? But we better get on
Maybe.
with today's coffee shout-outs.
I'm not looking forward to this.
We're going to be moving any moment.
I'm not looking forward to it, mate.
Any moment.
Oh God, I can feel the vibrations.
Yeah. The track thing is moving behind us, the chain thing. And Nigel's get a bit queasy on roller coasters, don't you? Don't knock your coffee off, for goodness sake. It's going to throw us around a little bit.
Oh
you
God!
Take your mind off it. Take your mind off it. That first one there you could read out.
PJSJ design. What do they
design?
I don't know. What do they design?
What do they design? We still don't know what they design. But I'm just getting a bit high on this. They hope to get a day out in sunny Warwickshire on the van, filming and labouring for fun with first fix sweaty stuff one day. On the whores list now. Were they a whore before? I can't remember. You're a bit distracted, aren't you, Nigel?
Oh, it's coming.
You just hold on. Here we go. It's gonna be good. Woo!
Oh, Jesus!
Let's go! We've also got Ben Robinson, who is on Instagram as Robinson Electric. I haven't been on Instagram for a while. Bloody hell. Carl Robson, who says, have a beer or coffee or some snarny of your choice. Andy Payne. It wouldn't be a video without Andy Payne, would it, Nigel? No. It says the last couple of videos were entertaining. Unlike this bollocks here. I suspect. It's alright. Come to the halfway point.
I feel sick, mate. I'm in hell.
You're fine. Look, it's calming down now. Matthew Rogers from MR Electrical Services says, can you call my mate Mark from Greener Solutions a prick?
Oh, Mark from Greener Solutions. You're a prick.
He also says daughter Megan also watches, but is probably on her phone. So if we read this out, she'll be really confused if she hears her name. Megan. Pay attention, Megan.
Oi. Megan.
No, she ain't listening.
Nah.
Megan. She ain't listening. We're moving. We're off again.
God. I thought we were done.
No, afraid not. Oh, crikey. This one's a high one, Nigel.
God, look at that.
Read that one quickly.
Nigel Tupman.
Would it be a video without Nigel Tupman?
No.
See, I took your mind off it for a moment there.
Yeah, look at those clouds.
Quick swig before we go over the top. We're not too sure about this one.
Jesus.
We also have a virgin on the list in the name of Ellis. Ellis the Virgin, who says you two are a right pair of comedians that make me laugh. Ellis, there's nothing funny about electrical work. As being proven right this moment. A bit of a splash back there. We also have, in the name Super Wanks, anonymous Mark Eastwood, who has given us a yellow super wank. Thank you to anonymous Mark.
I don't like it.
Special mentions to Andy Carouche and lovely Liz.
I don't like it.
Put it at the end there.
Good.
Andy Carouche and lovely Liz. Andy Carouche has sent us a picture of Liz for the van. Let's get those names on the screen right now. Thank you to all concerned.
God.
You're all right there, Nigel. You're looking a little bit green around the gills, on
Bloody hell.
God, I'm Bennett. I think it's fairly safe to say that we won't be using the roller coaster studio. Hell have you been eating? It stinks of spunk.